Film Club.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Film Club. I'm one of your hosts, Andy Harrison, and with me, as always, it's Andy Donaldson.
Hello.
Andy, every week in Film Club, we invite the lovely people at home along to watch a film with us, and this week we have invited them to watch 1 Hour Photo.
One Hour Photo, which features Cy, the photo guy, played by Robin Williams, who is a photo tech at a local supermarket. He develops an attraction and a want for a family that he's been developing photos for the past, 12 years? And that obsession itself slowly turns into something more and culminates with Cy, the photo guy, not being a very nice guy.
It's funny that last week we got onto picking 1 Hour Photo because we'd kind of gone through Insomnia and seen Robin Williams like playing against type casting as this sort of creepy antagonist, and then you go into 1 Hour Photo and that gets ratcheted up.
And it's interesting that I honestly couldn't believe that this is the same year that he featured both these films got released in 2002, Insomnia and 1 Hour Photo. What a performance. What's the word? He's needing and he's just obsessed, and he's absolutely just the way. Oh my god, those scenes where he just sits down and stares in the film carries with absolute credit to the director here. The director was Mark Romanek. Just
while we're on Mark Romanek for a second, one tidbit I came across that I thought you might like. He did the music video for Hurt from Johnny Cash.
He did a few good music videos, but I noticed the one for Hurt. It's quite anyone who knows of Johnny Cash, it was the way he redid Hurt, Trent Reznor's Nine Inch Nails Hurt, into his own thing, and it's really powerful when you watch the video as well. So absolute credit to that. The video for Hurt, Johnny Cash's Hurt, is sublime. So do check it out.
Did you come across the Trent Reznor connection here as well?
Trent Reznor originally composed the soundtrack, however, it wasn't used. But, and this is a big but, that doesn't mean to say that the music for this film wasn't good. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I'd be really interested to hear that as well, because the music here is, I think you're right, I think it works, but it's not something that like leaps out at you. What I think is actually quite powerful about the way that we use the music is some of the setups and some of the cinematography is a bit more objective, especially in his fantasy scenes, where they're actually presenting a relatively normal sort of proceeding. It's the music that makes you uncomfortable. It's the music that tells you how to feel in those scenes.
And to go beyond the music as well, and just to credit the sound team in general, the absolute use of sound design and silence. We'll keep going on about this recently, but we've been watching a few films where they use silence really well.
Yeah.
But the character of Cy, the idea is he's a blank slate. He's had a history. He's got nothing in his life. He's got no girlfriend. He's got no no alive parents or people he kind of like connects with. He's got nothing, hence why he latches onto this family. And that's really, really well used through the sound design. Because if you listen to the scenes where he's walking or he's doing something where you might have a couple of like someone talking to you, you might have, a drink that you're opening, or just something really nice that connects it to you. What he has is literally footsteps. He might have the clicking of a button. He might have the photocopier going off, very, very mundane, generic sounds, because it's the only thing that's filling his otherwise empty life. And I was like, oh my days, well played. That is just Cy. You feel Cy, and it's just his emptiness is nothing in his life.
And then that is totally supported with the cinematography. So the cinematography here, amazing. Done by a guy called Jeff Cronenweth, and I think we've actually done some of Jeff Cronenweth's work before, but we haven't actually brought him up. He's actually a collaborator for David Finch a lot of the time. And you can see that sort of like, that Fight Club-esque approach to this. He's actually handling this in a two-handed way. On the one hand, he's supporting the thematic value of photography in this work, because a lot of the framing here is striking, and it's striking.
The frame is amazing.
In a very still frame manner. It's striking like photography can be. But then on the other side of it, you have this strong use of color. And color sometimes it's used in that classic cinematic sense to sort of portray emotions and portray certain requirements that the audience needs to connect with. This sort of consistent use of white and consistent use of creams, because it's tying into exactly what you're talking about there.
Yeah.
The fact that Psy doesn't have anything going on. There's no joyous element. There's also nothing of sort of deep depravity going on until obviously later in the film. But there's nothing to colour his life, in a very literal sense. And I think that it also gives you, especially the scene, sort of the nightmare scene, the one that everyone's sort of familiar with from this film, the one where Psy is in the completely stark white version of the supermarket and he's in the aisles, and the aisles have absolutely nothing on them, else his eyes are bleeding red. In that moment, you suddenly get this sort of imagery of like an asylum. I think it goes to show how much thought and time was put into giving the cinematography here some sort of metatextual importance.
So I love how they combine together to create that monochromatic lifestyle that Psy has. It's just nothingness. The first time you actually get a glimpse into Psy's life and his obsession, he's watching an episode of The Simpsons. I mean, we all watched Simpsons growing up, but there's one episode I love, and it's the Die Bart Die one. It has that scene on TV, and he goes, "But who'd want to kill me?" And you look at Psy, just that point-blank expression staring towards the TV, and the camera shifts up to that wall, and instantly you see more and more and more and more photos of family that he's after.
What I love about that is it ties it into a zeitgeist. It ties it into a time and a place, because the funny thing about 1 hour photo is that it's actually quite difficult to show to a more contemporary audience. We touched a little bit, I guess, on Robin Williams' performance, but one of the things that I absolutely loved in this film that I don't think we got enough of was the Robin Williams voiceover. I love the thing that opens the film, and it has Robin Williams talking about how people edit their life through selective photography and how they're not taking pictures of the bad stuff because they only want to show how great things are. And I just thought it was funny that, in complete contrast to what I was just talking about with how this film doesn't necessarily play to a more contemporary audience, that thematic value is more relevant than ever with social media.
You've literally took the words out of my mouth, Andy.
I do have a problem with this film. And my problem, I think, is the script itself. At the very end, Psy has this moment where, after he's been caught, and we are shown his pictures, or we're about to be shown his pictures for the first time, he just sort of comes out with his own admittance of motivation. That sort of level of sort of deeply ingrained sexual abuse, you wouldn't really expect the person who you've just arrested to be putting it on the table and explaining why they've just done what they've done. It's like,
if anything, you'd expect him to be saying that to the family. I'm behind you now, yeah.
It's strange, and there's all these little small things, like for some reason Jake never tells anybody that he came to see him at his football match and that he gave him a toy. And there's the stuff where like the manager knows about him giving out birthday cameras, or the birthday camera to Jake. Psy gets like fired at one point, but then he has to work another day and a half before he actually leaves. And it's,
who do that, by the way?
It's really so the script can put him where he needs to be, and so he can get the knife he needs later on. They don't drag the film down, but they stop the film from being, I guess, it stops the film from reaching like a higher sort of like intellectual level, which would have been really nice to see, given that everyone else who was working on this was ready, I think, to really take that on board. And to be fair, the script does actually bring in one element that I utterly love, and that's the fact that Robin Williams' character Psy, he's not just attracted to Nina. Like, it would have been so easy for it to just be he's attracted to Nina, and so he demonizes her husband, and that's what leads into the downfall of the whole thing. But it's absolutely not. Instead, when he meets her husband for the first time, he's thrilled.
He's infatuated, isn't he?
Yeah, he loves him just as much as he loves Nina. And I think the most heartbreaking scene is when he's fantasizing about like being in the house. They come home, and even in his fantasy, when they come home and they don't like rush over to him and like they're all like, "Yay, Psy, we didn't think you'd be here. This is great." Instead, they just go about their day. He's fantasizing about just being a part of a family that just accepts living around him.
And again, the great use of editing, how it suddenly cuts to him in the car. Like you jump back to time and you just see that face of Psy, just that frown upside down. Sorry, yeah, totally opposite.
I love the moment where he's been fired, but he's looking at the roll film that Jake has taken, and Jake's obviously just taking a bunch of pictures of toys and colours and shapes and stuff, and he's sitting there on the floor, like kind of upset that he's been fired, but also beaming with like almost a fatherly pride.
Yeah, Uncle Si.
But anyway, there is 1 Hour Photo. You can let us know in the comments below what you thought of 1 Hour Photo, or you can hit us up on Twitter, as always. But Andy and I will be back once again next week, where we're going to take a look at Blowout.
Brian De Palma, I believe his first film that we're going to be doing.
Yeah. So until then, get watching.
Cheers.